My name is Charlotte Reed, and every time I stand in front of the tall glass window of my office, staring out at the Manhattan skyline, I remember that night. The night my parents shocked me at a family gathering and handed the entire inheritance to someone else. The city below sparkled like 1,000 promises, but behind all that glitter was the ache I carried for years. People who meet me now see a polished woman in a silk blouse, steady heels clicking across marble floors, an espresso in hand, the portrait of control. But what they don't see is the fracture that started it all. The moment my own family told me I was worth nothing more than a polite smile and a pat on the shoulder. This morning, as I smoothed a hand across my desk, mahogany, imported, heavy with presents, my phone buzzed. A family group text. "We should all meet again soon," it read. My brother's wife had added a smiling emoji at the end, as if history had been nothing more than an awkward dinner. My chest tightened. Memories of that night flooded in. My trembling hands, the whispers of aunts and uncles, the clinking of champagne glasses when my father announced the decision. They'd all applauded while I sat frozen, humiliated. I drew a deep breath, adjusted the diamond watch clasped around my wrist, and let myself smirk. They wanted a reunion? Fine. Let them come. This time, they wouldn't find the timid girl they once dismissed. The memory is sharp, like glass pressed against skin. I was 23 when it happened. The Reed family had gathered at my parents' estate in Connecticut, a sprawling colonial house with white columns and manicured lawns that looked like something out of a magazine. That night, the chandeliers glowed golden, and everyone was dressed in their best. I remember adjusting the hem of my navy dress, my palms damp with nerves. The talk of inheritance had been in the air for months. My father, Richard Reed, a man who believed in appearances more than affection, had summoned us for what he called a formal family announcement. My brother Ethan sat at the head of the long oak table beside him, smirking like he already knew the ending of the story. I didn't. Not yet. The air smelled of roasted duck and aged wine, the chatter of cousins and uncles bouncing off the walls. I tried to ignore the glances, the way some relatives sized me up as though I were already dismissed. Then came the moment. My father cleared his throat, his deep voice silencing the room. "Tonight," he said, "we finalize the transfer of the Reed inheritance. It is with great pride that I announce it all goes to Ethan." Applause erupted. Glasses clinked. My mother dabbed the corner of her eye with a silk napkin, smiling at her son as though he were a king. And me? I sat frozen. My chest tightened, my throat dry as sand. I forced my lips into a thin smile, though inside my heart cracked. "Charlotte," my aunt whispered beside me, her voice sticky sweet, "you're strong and independent. You'll be just fine without it." Her words stung worse than the announcement itself. My hands trembled beneath the table, nails digging into my palm. I felt invisible, erased by the very people who were supposed to see me. But there was one thing that kept me from breaking completely: the silver bracelet on my wrist. A gift from my grandmother before she passed. She had pressed it into my palm and whispered, "Never let them define your worth. You'll carve your own." That night, after the applause died down and the music started, I excused myself. My heels clicked across the marble floor as I walked out into the cold night air. Tears blurred the driveway lights, but each step away from that house was a promise that I would never again beg for a seat at their table. That was the night I chose independence. Walking away from that house, I had nothing but my degree, a half-empty bank account, and my grandmother's silver bracelet. The cold air stung my cheeks as I drove back to my tiny apartment in Brooklyn, headlights slicing through the dark. My mind was buzzing with betrayal, but beneath the ache was a sharp ember of determination. For weeks, I cried quietly at night, my pillow damp, my chest aching with the question, why wasn't I enough? But every morning, I pulled myself together. Mascara, blazer, coffee. I walked into the world like I was fine, even when my insides felt shattered. At first, I worked as an assistant at a small marketing firm. Long hours, little pay. I remember scrubbing coffee stains out of my one good blouse late at night, wondering how long I could keep pretending. My coworkers underestimated me, the quiet girl, with big ideas no one cared to hear. Until one day someone did. Her name was Victoria Lane, a senior partner who noticed me staying late, rearranging campaign boards and drafting strategies no one had asked me to write. One evening, she leaned over my desk, her perfume crisp and expensive, and said, "You think differently, Charlotte."
Don't hide that.
That single sentence shifted everything. With Victoria's mentorship, I learned not just about marketing, but about confidence. She pushed me into meetings where my voice shook at first, then steadied. She corrected me, but also celebrated me. And when I pitched my first independent campaign, a risky, creative idea, and it landed our firm a major client, I realized I could do more than just survive. Still, I kept my success quiet around my family. When Ethan bragged on Facebook about his new car or vacation, I posted simple photos, a latte, a sunset, a quote. Never the late nights, the client wins, or the growing savings account. They assumed I was still struggling, and I let them. Years passed, and the tiny apartment became a sleek loft. The stained blouse was replaced by tailored suits. I launched my own firm, Read Strategies, though I never told my family the name. The first year was brutal, sleeping 4 hours a night, cold pizza dinners, rejection after rejection. But then came the breakthroughs. A tech startup trusted me. A fashion brand signed on. Word spread. The day I signed my first $1 million contract, I sat alone at my desk, staring at the numbers on the page. I laughed and cried at the same time, the sound echoing in the empty office. My grandmother's bracelet glinted under the fluorescent lights, a reminder of the promise I'd made. But the most satisfying part? They had no idea. At family holidays, they still asked, "How's the job hunt going, Charlotte?" Or, "Maybe one day you'll find a good husband to take care of you." I'd just smile politely, cutting into my turkey, hiding the fact that I owned the very building we were sitting in. It wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom. And yet, deep down, I knew the day would come when they'd see the truth. The message came on a Thursday afternoon. Ethan's name flashed across my phone, his tone in the group chat as smug as I remembered. "Charlotte, we should all meet. Family dinner at your place, maybe? It'd be good to catch up." I almost laughed. They had no idea what my place meant. So I agreed. Friday, 7 p.m. The next evening, the Reeds walked through the tall glass doors of my penthouse on Fifth Avenue. Their voices echoed in the marble-floored entryway, but soon faltered as their eyes adjusted to the space. Soft jazz played in the background. A grand chandelier dripped light across polished wooden floors. Large canvases of modern art lined the walls, pieces I had collected from emerging female artists. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the glittering Manhattan skyline, my favorite view at night. Ethan stepped in first, his wife trailing behind, clutching her designer purse. My parents followed, their faces frozen somewhere between pride and confusion. This was not the struggling, invisible Charlotte they had last imagined. "Wow," my mother finally whispered, her voice brittle. "You rent this place?" I smiled, pouring champagne into tall flutes.
No, Mom.
"I own it." Silence. They gathered around the glass dining table, their eyes darting from the gleaming surfaces to the gold-framed photographs on the shelf. Pictures of me with Victoria at award ceremonies, with international clients, with the team I had built from the ground up. Ethan laughed awkwardly. "So, what is it you do again?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my legs with deliberate calm. "I run Read Strategies, a global marketing firm. Clients in fashion, tech, media. The company has grown, well, faster than I expected." The name sank in. My father's glass nearly slipped from his hand. "Read Strategies?" His voice cracked. "Yes," I said evenly. "I took our name and made it mean something beyond inheritance papers." Ethan's smirk faded. My mother blinked rapidly, as though trying to reconcile the daughter they dismissed with the woman in front of them. I let them sit in the silence, absorbing the truth. The weight of my words, the elegance of the room, the evidence of my success, it all spoke louder than anger ever could. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "We had no idea." "That's right. I said softly. You didn't. Because you never cared to ask. The words hung heavy in the air. My mother's lips quivered. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. I walked over to the shelf and picked up the silver bracelet, gleaming under the chandelier. Grandma told me never to let you define my worth. So, I built my own. Every contract signed, every risk taken, every late night, it was me. Without you. In spite of you. Their faces were pale, speechless. And for once, I wasn't trembling.
My voice was steady, strong.
You thought you erased me that night. I continued, eyes fixed on my father. But that was the night you set me free. The skyline glittered behind me, my reflection in the glass taller, stronger than the girl they had abandoned. I raised my glass of champagne. To independence, I said, the faintest smile on my lips. No one moved. No one spoke. But in their stunned silence, I finally felt it, the shift. The power that had once been theirs was now entirely mine. They sat around my table, stiff and silent, as though the weight of my success pressed heavier than the chandelier above us. I sipped my champagne slowly, letting the silence stretch, watching them squirm. Finally, Ethan broke. Charlotte, listen. We didn't mean to hurt you back then. We were just following Dad's lead. You know how it is. I arched a brow.
No, Ethan.
I don't know how it is. Because unlike you, I didn't have anything handed to me. My father shifted uncomfortably, his voice lower now. We may have misjudged you, but you've clearly done well. We're proud of you. The words rang hollow. Proud? After erasing me, dismissing me, leaving me to carve out my survival alone? Pride wasn't what I wanted from them. You came here tonight, I said, leaning forward, expecting to meet the same girl you humiliated years ago. Instead, you found a woman who built her own empire. And now, suddenly, you're scrambling to rewrite history. My mother's eyes welled with tears. Charlotte, please. We're still family. I softened slightly. They were still my blood, no matter how deeply they had cut me. But blood alone didn't earn trust. Not anymore. You want to be in my life? I asked, voice calm but unwavering.
Fine.
There will be conditions. Their eyes widened. Ethan, I began, turning to my brother. If you want my help with your debts, and I know you have them, then you'll stop throwing money at cars and vacations. Start something real. A business. A dream you care about. Otherwise, you'll get nothing from me. His jaw tightened, but he nodded slowly. I turned to my parents. As for you, you'll stop pretending everything you did was out of love. Acknowledge the damage. Say it out loud.
To me. To yourselves.
And most importantly, respect my boundaries. No more decisions about my life without me. No more dismissing me. My father's face flushed red, pride and shame battling behind his eyes. My mother wiped her tears silently. These aren't punishments, I continued, softer now. They're terms of healing. You want a place in my world. You'll earn it with honesty, accountability, and respect. Nothing less. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the city outside, cars rushing through the night. Ethan finally muttered, All right, I'll try. My father clenched his jaw, then gave a small nod. My mother's trembling hand reached for mine, and though I didn't take it yet, I didn't pull away either. I don't need your apologies, I told them. I need your change. If you can do that, then maybe, just maybe, we can start again. On my terms. The silver bracelet glimmered on my wrist as I spoke, a reminder that I wasn't demanding out of cruelty, but out of the strength I had fought to earn. For the first time in years, I felt the balance shift entirely in my favor. The weeks that followed were strange at first. My family, once so quick to dismiss me, now tread carefully around me. For the first time in my life, they listened. Ethan called one evening, not to brag, but to ask for advice. He'd started drafting plans for a small fitness studio, something he'd always talked about but never pursued. His voice was quieter, humbled, almost boyish. My mother sent me messages too. Awkward, halting at first. A photo of her garden, A recipe she thought I might like, a hesitant thinking of you. My father, the hardest to bend, took longer. But one night, he finally said what I had waited years to hear. I was wrong. 2 words, small on the surface, but heavy enough to soften something inside me. I didn't forgive them overnight. Healing isn't a switch you flip. But slowly, I felt the cracks in my heart fill, not with blind love, but with strength, with boundaries, with a kind of cautious hope. One evening, after a long day at the office, I sat by the window of my penthouse, the city lights twinkling below like scattered stars. I slipped off my diamond watch and unclasped the silver bracelet, my grandmother's gift. Running my fingers over its smooth metal, I remembered her words. Never let them define your worth. You'll carve your own. She had been right. That inheritance they stripped from me, it was never the true wealth. My real inheritance was resilience. The empire I built, the independence I claimed, the woman I had become. That was mine. Earned, not given. As I set the bracelet back onto my wrist, I whispered into the quiet, almost as if she could hear me. I carved it, Grandma. And I carved it beautifully. Then I raised my glass of wine to the skyline, a soft smile tugging at my lips. I was no longer the girl begging for recognition at a family table. I was the woman who built her own.